I'm hoping that people can hear me now. Apologies. It was my gaffe, and so the sound should be nope. Still no. Okay, I'm gonna wait. There's a little bit of a linger. Okay, and again, I apologize, Jeff. Good to go. Yay! Now we can. Okay, remember I have one screw up per show, and hopefully that's the only one. If you guys look at the fact that there's new graphics for the Black Shield and Galleon Wheel webcast here on YouTube, it was me. I apologize. Everything was good to go, but I did not put in a audio source. So we've gotten that done. Apologies there. Facebook, you've been listening to me, so make sure you're going over there to the webpage over at YouTube. So we are here, and on the line, who is a gentleman who's been waiting patiently for me to get my act together, and I do appreciate that, is the Great Raider Kicker. And obviously when you do a show, you need to do some research, and I've done that. The Great Raider Kicker, Jeff Jaeger. Jeff, how are you doing this evening, sir? Jeff. Okay. That would suck. Jeff, are you still on the line? Jeff, are you still on the line?
I certainly am. I'm here.
Okay, well, I screwed up twice.
Okay, well, as long as we got it dialed in, we're all good.
Hey, I try to give the best shows I can, but at least it gives people something to laugh at, because again, I don't do this for a living, and thank God, because I would love to do it for a living, but I want to make sure that I do things right. So we got audio. And I can hear you now because I accidentally turned off the speaker when I went with the other speaker input. So again, we're all here. 3 strikes. Okay, no, Johnny, I'm not doing 3 strikes. Johnny already said 3 strikes in my mouth. So we are here with the Great Raider Kicker, Mr. Jeff Jaeger. Jeff, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing fantastic. How about yourself?
Well, now that I've gotten my my audio problem solved, and people can actually hear and see me, I'm feeling better. So, again, normally I do, like I said, I do one screw up a show. I'm sorry, guys, I did 2. Johnny Jimenez said I can't go to 3. So, again, I want to thank you again. And Jeff is joining us from Washington State, I do believe. Correct, sir?
Absolutely. Just outside Seattle.
Okay. And the reason why I was saying that, hopefully I'm correct, because I did read your Wikipedia, and it's one of those things where you get a chance when you talk with somebody, you get a chance to see how current and how correct the Wikipedia is. So the one thing that I did see was that you went to high school. What was it, Kent High School?
Kent Meridian, yeah.
Okay. And I needed to ask because I looked in there, and it said that you were a walk-on at UW. Did nobody scout you to see that you were as awesome as you were? Or because they missed the ball on you, brother. They missed the ball.
Well, I have to say, I appreciate you saying awesome, but let's go back and we'll talk about my high school career.
Well, let's do that. Yeah, I see it, because I must have missed out. Now you're an 82 or an 83?
83.
Okay, so you and I graduated the same year. Okay, so
perfect. Okay,
so that's why we have that kindred spirit, brother. We're both 83s. Okay.
I love it. That's always a good thing.
And
that's a good thing.
That's another reason why when Jeff, when I get your autograph, you guys say, "Hey, class of '83 brothers." We got to put that on there as well. So
you got it.
Okay. Now, class of '83, you're at Kent Meridian, did you say?
Yeah, Kent Meridian.
Okay. All right.
And
So what? Talk to me. What again? Awesome, Jeff Jaeger, and apparently not. So you give me your best.
okay, so long story short, I guess. Like for high school, I would say I was an above average athlete. I lettered in football, basketball, baseball, wrestling, track. A bunch of different things. But I mean, to be honest, I was not going to play football beyond high school. At anything other than kicker. And I'd been kicking, since I started playing. But I also played other positions. For high school again. I was a decent high school player. But my kicking, actually, I was a better punter in high school than I was a kicker. And my senior year, we were 1-8, and we scored 7 touchdowns the entire season. And I went 3 for 6 on field goals and missed my 3 shortest attempts. So you tell me, if you're recruiting anybody, would you offer a scholarship?
Hey, but you at least hit the 50% mark. It's not like you were below 50.
Yeah, watch me go. So, yeah, at that time, I got in, I grew up, in Seattle, so I was a UW fan, and so I got in University of Washington just as a student, and I had my choice. I could have walked on at Montana State, or Oregon State, and if you recall, way back then, Oregon State was awful. I mean, truly horrible. So for me, it was like, well, heck, I'm going to go to UW, and I'll give it a shot, and it seemed to work out pretty good for me when I got there.
So now, did you go out your freshman year as the kicker at UW?
I did. I started all 4 years right from day one.
All right. Well, see, they missed the boat on you, Jeff. And like I said, not only did they have a great kicker, they had that great punter that they could actually use as well. Now, when did you have to do both duties at UW, or were you just doing kicking?
Oh, trust me. Anybody that knows me and hears me start talking about punting, they just laugh. Here's my deal. If you could have handed me the ball, I know I could have punted in the NFL. But there's that little thing about having to catch a snap. My hands were truly awful. So that kind of brought the end of my punting career. When I first got to UW, I was punting. And Chuck Nelson, I don't know if you know that name, he played about 6 years in the NFL. He had just graduated the year before as a kicker. And the guys that we had there weren't doing all that great. And so after about a week, 2 days, my freshman year, they asked if I wanted to try some field goal, and I did, and it just worked out well.
Okay, well then I'm guessing that when you were in high school, you weren't a receiver or a running back either.
I played a little running back, a little tight end, but let's be honest. I think in high school I maybe caught 5 balls in 3 years. Nothing fantastic. Trust me, they weren't going to send me out, on an important play. That's for sure. As the first option.
Okay, so what we need to do is we needed to devise a system where there would be one less blocker on the line of scrimmage. The long snapper would snap it to the guy that actually had the hands. He would catch the ball, and he would give it to you. And this way, actually, that would have been really good for UW because they could have had a lot of plays where it would have been like fakes. The guy who caught the ball would obviously be able to quarterback as well. So they really wouldn't know whether you were going to punt it or not. And then they had that capability there. So see, they missed out on a great trick play that way as well.
There you go. There's plenty of options, that's for sure.
But getting back to UW, you were there all 4 years, and I saw that a walk-on to an All-America. I mean, you can't beat that.
Playing for Don James my coach there, he, as a kicker, he was a dream. He was one of those coaches, fourth down and a foot kick, he wouldn't even think about going for it. And, so it's kind of one of those things where, you're able to get on a roll, and, they spend a lot of time on, special teams during practice, snaps and holds. And, I think nowadays, teams spend more time on it. When I was in college, I think there were some teams that really didn't, pay attention to it, like they should have. And Coach James really did a lot, on that. And it just made it much easier for me in the sense that, again, you're able to build your confidence and get on a roll. And it's always that way with kicking. When you're hot and you're feeling confident and everything's going good, you just want to keep it going.
Now, during your years at UW, give me some of your best memories of playing in the Pac-10. First off, I'm sure that Washington was good enough to at least hit a couple bowl games, or am I out of step here?
No, we went to a bowl game every year. For me, it was my freshman year. Washington State beat us at home, and if we'd have won that, we'd have gone to the Rose Bowl. So, as a freshman, you're like, oh man, that really sucks, but we'll be okay. We'll make it. Well, my sophomore year, we lost to USC when we were number one in the country, and we ended up going to the Orange Bowl, and we beat Oklahoma in the Orange Bowl. And I'd say that was my best memory in college. And we finished number 2 that year at BYU, which don't even get me going on that. But that was quite a team to be on, and a really good memory.
Now, was that the Robbie Bosco BYUs, or which quarterback was it back then?
Yeah, that was the Robbie Bosco. They came back in the fourth quarter against a 6-5 Michigan team and barely beat them. But I'm not bitter about that, am I?
No, not at all. Hey, I'm going to do this though, because if you don't see me, I'm patting myself on the back that I actually pulled Robbie Basco out of my butt at about the same time frame, and it was correct. So I'm like, hey, Jeff knows who the hell I'm talking about.
Yeah,
high five,
absolutely.
man. That see
Well
again.
done.
I know a little bit of things. I'm happy that I did that. All right.
Yeah, we got to get you on Sports Jeopardy. I love it.
Well, you and I, brother, we're there. So you said that obviously the Orange Bowl was your bestest time, or probably your fondest memory. Now, who were some of the people that obviously you played with at UW or played against that you have good memories of?
Oh wow, gosh. Kevin Gogan. So I know you know him, being a Raider fan.
Oh yeah.
So Kevin and I played the same 4 years at UW, and then 3 together with the Raiders. Chris Chandler I think he played 17 years. Steve Pallure, Hugh Millen, Ron Holmes, Joe Kelly. I played with a ton of guys that played in the NFL. So
oh yeah.
It was a good time to be a Husky, that's for sure.
Well, one of the reasons why I say that is because my next question leading up, excuse me, the guys that know my show know that I've been trying to get over this cough since like week 2. So, yeah, it's not quite gone yet. But the way that you were back then, Pac-10 still being the impressive conference that it was, but the way that it was as far as transitioning from college to the pros was a lot different back then. And I'm going to ask, first off, I'm going to let the cat out of the bag. Jeff Jaeger was drafted in the 3rd round by the Cleveland Browns. So again, he was drafted in the 3rd round, and in those days, the only kicker, I think it was maybe Russell Erxleben, Tony Franklin, are the only 2 first-rounders prior to Janikowski that were drafted that high. But 3rd round for a kicker was quite a feat. I don't think that I've ever heard, other than, like I said, Tony Franklin, Russell Erxleben, I don't remember any kicker going higher than the second round. And you went in the third, and that's a prestigious position for a kicker.
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty surprised that I got drafted by them. Bill Cowher was their special teams coach, and he came out to Seattle to work me out before the draft, and he literally had me at one kickoff and one field goal and said, "Okay, great, I saw you. You're not going to be around when we're picking anyway." So, yeah, that's the only thing I ever heard from the Browns before the draft, and so it was, I was pretty lucky to be a third round pick. I was the first kicker picked that year, and so it was pretty cool.
Now I did look up. I believe that you did. I see it right? You hit with the Browns the full season with them, so it's not like you didn't go the full season. I gotta ask, Jeff, because again, knowing you, like and I say the royal we as Raider Nation knows you as, again, a stalwart, fantastic kicker. Why in the hell did the Browns let you go?
Well, okay, I'll give you I'll try and keep it short, but I'm assuming you remember Matt Barr. Chris Barr's brother.
And that was my next question, because I remember that the Barr brothers were around, and I was going to ask if you were following them or were they following you, because I know that both Matt and Chris, and they're both Penn Staters, if I'm not mistaken. And
they are,
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so I know that time of year, or sure that time of the year, sorry, those times, the Barr brothers were kicking well, and I knew that the one Barr kicked for the Browns, but I don't know whether that they preceded you or preceded, because I know the one Barr, I think it was Chris Barr, actually preceded you in Oakland, or actually then Los Angeles, correct?
Exactly. Yeah. So Matt was with the Browns before, during, and after me, and he in the playoffs in '86 he tore his ACL trying to make a tackle, as kickers do, trying to make a tackle when you probably had to just get out of the way.
Oh, don't worry. I'm going to ask you about something like that later, so keep that in the back of your mind. So go ahead.
Oh, for sure. So Matt tore his ACL at the end of '86, and they didn't really know if he was going to be able to come back or not. And so that's why they drafted me. If Matt wouldn't have got hurt, they never would have picked me. No way. And so I started out the year, I was doing great. I was like 8 for 10 and leading the league in scoring, and everything was going great. And Jeff Gossett was my holder with the Browns. And then they cut him, and Gary Danielson, I don't know if you remember him, the longtime Detroit Lion quarterback.
Oh, I know him because every time I listen to any SEC broadcast, I kind of throw up a lot, because Gary Danielson hates my teams, and he hates the Gators. I'll say that because I'm a Gator alum. And
there you go. Okay.
And he definitely doesn't like the SEC. So you don't have to talk to me about Gary Danielson. I know about that gentleman.
Oh, good. Well, good. Then you'll feel me on this then. So anyway, so I'm 8 for 10 with Goose, doing great. They cut him. Gary Danielson now has to hold, and he very obviously didn't want to hold. Wasn't very good at it, especially compared to Goose. And as a rookie, I didn't handle it well. I ended up 14 for 22, and they brought Matt back with like 3 games to go. Because he was healthy enough to play, and I was kicking my credit. I mean, I certainly don't blame him. And so that's in '87. And in '88, they, brought us both to camp and said, "Hey, whoever gets it, gets it." And I injured my foot. Believe it or not, we're playing in Tampa Bay, and I'm hitting the ball into the net. And that field, back in the day, the grass field had a huge crown on it. And long story short, I hit one fat into the kicking net and bent my foot back, and I had like a legit 3-week injury that I needed to just not kick. And this was in the preseason. So I didn't play at all in '88. And then in the off season of '89, between '88 and '89, that was the first year of Plan B free agency. So you remember that?
Yes, I do. But there are plenty of youngins out there who actually might not have any clue what.
Okay, well, I'll explain it.
Yeah.
Plan B free agency, at the time, each team could protect 35 players. So they could pick 35 guys, and those guys could not be free agents. Everybody else was a free agent. Well, I mean, let's be honest. Number 36 and beyond, it's not like, there's a whole bunch of guys that are, highly coveted. But anyway, so what they did is they didn't protect Matt or me, knowing that, whoever left, the other one would stay. And I was born in Seattle and a West Coast guy. I mean, I couldn't get out of there fast enough. So, and ended up working out. I got to go to the Raiders. That was my childhood team, and I was over the moon. I was ecstatic to get to come play for the Raiders.
Good. Yeah, actually, good segue, because I was going to say, being that you were up in Washington State and the Seahawks were only in existence in '76, so how much? I was going to ask, did you actually like the Seahawks when you were younger, or were you always a Raiders fan?
I was always a Raiders fan. One of my favorite pictures I've got my life is my mom had a picture of my 8th birthday with my Oakland Raiders sweatshirt on. So they've been my team.
Okay, well, you and I, like I said, cut from the same cloth. Being except that opposite sides of the field, of the nation. You being a lifetime Raider fan, and I'm out in Philadelphia as a Raider fan, where it's a little bit harder to be a Raider fan in Philadelphia, as you know, about the Philadelphia sports teams. So, but that was because of another kicker, and people know this. The reason why I'm a Raiders fan was because I went to school with George Blanda's. It was either his nephew or his great nephew, and
cool.
And he turned me on to the Raiders. So we got that. We still got that kicker thing going for the Raiders there, Jeff. So you and I are getting closer by the second. So I'm glad I got you on, man.
I love it.
Yeah, but yeah, George Blanda. His nephew Kenny Blanda, he said, "Hey, my uncle plays for the Raiders, and might want to check him out." And in those days, in those days, so let me say this correctly: the Eagles sucked. Okay, so
yeah,
the Eagles. I mean, I think the best person that they had on their team was Harold Carmichael, who actually went into the NFL Hall of Fame, and we'll get back to that a little bit later as well. See all these segues I'm building on you? So
yeah, you are.
Yeah. But Harold was actually their team back then. You didn't have anybody throwing it to him. I mean, this was pre-Jaws as well. So so both being Raider fans, you're out in Los Angeles, and I'm going to ask you. I lost my sheet of notes here. Stuff I wanted to add. There we go. Okay. So you go in Plan B. The Raiders pick you up, and who are the people that you're talking to at that time? I mean, obviously, eventually you have to see, the Godfather, the Maverick himself, Mr. Davis. But who were you speaking to prior to that? Because you got to work up to talk to Mr. Davis.
Well, so when Plan B free agency started, I went to Green Bay and Miami, and I had a couple workouts, and then New England and Cincinnati offered me contracts. I didn't even have to go work out. And then I went to Denver the day before I was going to the Raiders, and I had a really good workout. But their general manager was out of town for the day or something, and they wanted to sign me, but I had already scheduled to come and go work out for the Raiders. So I was like, hey, I'm going to go work out for the Raiders, and I had a good workout. It was kind of one of those where sometimes it's called a gong show, where you got like, I don't know, 12 guys in or something, and I had a good workout, and they decided they wanted to sign me. So George Karras was a guy that was kind of handling that one for that day. And anyway, so they ended up talking to my agent and getting it all figured out, and there it was.
So now I hate to ask, and you can tell me I'd rather not discuss it, but what your first contracts were? I mean, as a kicker, I mean, I'm thinking maybe $6-7 million myself. So
well,
tongue firmly planted in cheek, obviously, but
absolutely. The funny thing from my perspective, I remember. So I played with Jeff Gossett in Cleveland, and then all 7 years that I was with the Raiders, he was my holder, and that's one of those, because his rookie year is like 81 with the Chiefs, and I think he said he made like $32,000 for the entire season. So and he used to say, like, "Oh man, I was born too early," and that's kind of like, everybody looks at it that way. I mean, I would say that I had probably a 5-year period during my career that I would say I was well regarded. We'll leave it at that.
Oh yeah.
And
oh yeah. Well, no. Don't say that, Jeff. You're always well regarded. You just weren't compensated as well as we think you should have been.
You know what? I think in comparison to other kickers at the time, I think I was compensated just fine. But it's like, look at guys now, and you're like, holy smoke. And the other part I will say, it's a different animal now. I mean, guys, heck, if you're not 85%, they're like, what's wrong with you? So, I tell people, heck, I probably have a hard time holding on to a job now. So it's a different world out there, kicker wise, that's for sure.
Well, one of our viewers, Vicky, who's an awesome lady. In fact, she was going. We didn't get a chance to hook up in Los Angeles with because of some daughter and transportation and whatnot for a meal. But I know Vicky's gonna give me that wonderful meal when I see her next. Anyway, Vicky says, ask him, can he please come back? So that's a direct shot at our present kicker, Daniel Carlson. But we're going to ask you about how you feel about some of the Raiders a little bit later. But I'm going to save that one as well. So
okay.
You finally get on the Raiders. You're making $7-8 million a year. Bump, yeah, with the rim shot. And you, what was your first meeting like with Mr. Al Davis? If you can ever talk about that, I'm sure we'd all love to hear that.
I mean, it wasn't like there was this, grand meeting of, called me into his office and we're going to sit down and talk. My memories of him were like he'd be on the sideline in practice. And, so Goose and I'd be out there, and he would, he'd be, pacing the sideline, watching it. And he's always out there Wednesday, Thursday, the long days of practice. And like he'd be talking to himself sometimes, like, okay, I want to see Galt, run one or whatever, And it was weird because Goose and I sometimes would be like, are you talking to us? Or are you talking to yourself? Or, and you don't want to be like, well, I don't want to go up and say, yeah, well, I think you ought to do this or whatever. So, because he was always very intense, even in practice. And, so that, that was kind of I don't know if I want to say off-putting. I mean, it didn't make me feel bad about it. It was just, I didn't know how to react. But, he was always there, and, I mean, I think, you're asking, like, meetings with him or whatever, but I've got a story that, I've told plenty of times to people that really, say what they want to say about him, but, you know, for me, being a Raider fan growing up and getting to play there, you know, and as I'm older, you get to look back on it, and it's like, man, what a blessing it was to get to play for him. So, real quick, my story on this one. My first year with the Raiders, we're playing in Philadelphia. We're down 10-7, and I'd already missed like a 28-yarder early in the game.
Oh.
And so, yeah, exactly. So, you know, we're down 10-7, and there's like 2:15 left in the game. Clock's running. And the only kick I ever had with any pressure in college was my last home game against UCLA. It was like a 27-yarder, you know, no big deal. But, you know, again, it's going through that pressure and learning how to cope with it. And so I made that kick, but that's the only pressure kick I ever had. Well, so this kick, it's 42 yards left hash. Trust me, I can remember every last little bit of it. And I go out there, and the clock's running down, and I go out there, and Goose is down on a knee. He doesn't have his chin strap on, and I'm like, Goose, you got to stop it. He's like, no, we're going to wait for the 2-minute warning. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's right. You know, so just in terms of, you know, kind of that, you get nervous, and you're not thinking. And I sure shooting, you know, I spend, you know, the entire 2-minute warning out there thinking, oh, man, well, boy, you know, we're down 3, we tied, all that. And I'm just telling myself, just be smooth and relax. Well, I got to be honest, that was the single worst kick I ever hit in the pros. I pushed that thing so far right, it was awful. And, you know, so of course you're sitting in the airport waiting to get on the plane, you know, 6-hour flight, and I'm like, oh my God. And Al Davis came up to me and, you know, touched my shoulder. He's like, is it okay to swear? But he comes up and he's like, you know, kid, don't effing worry about it. It's all good. You're going to do great things for us. And, oh my gosh, I mean, I could not have, you know, felt any better. That could not have come at a better time for me, because of course I'm down. I'm like, oh my God. And then sure shooting, next week against Denver, I got a 26-yarder in overtime, and I made that. And actually, I never missed another one inside of 2 minutes or in overtime after that really ugly one. But I learned from it, and I give him a ton of credit for, you know, the mental side of it. And you know how it is, especially today. You know, a guy misses a kick, and you know, all the, you know, damn kickers, you know, on the next one. Well, you know, he's smart. He was. If you look at the history of the Raiders, you know, Bland, Earl Mann, and Chris Barr, you know, they had guys that they would keep forever, you know, and I think part of that was, you know, bolstering their confidence. And over the years, how many big kicks have Raider kickers made? You know.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, when you were talking, you know, all of the kickers that they did have, even prior to Ray Guy, minus Jerry DePoister, who's the reason why Ray Guy is on this team. The Raiders have had some really good kickers, punter combination. You know, like Mike Eisheit before he was even a Viking. You know, and you go back with obviously Gossett and obviously Ray Guy and Shane Leckler. Even for a little while, old hop along King, you know, before he got a little bit too big for his britches. They've always had great kickers that they kept for a while. So, and I was good, and I'm glad you actually said that, because again, the with the Blandas and the Earl Manns and the Chris Barrs and you, and then obviously they were looking for a little while, you know, between Cole Ford and Mike Husted before they got, you know, Janikowski. You know, Al Davis, like you said, he keeps the people that are going to win for him. So when you were saying it, and Al Davis touched me on the shoulder, and I'm leaning forward in my chair, waiting to hear the next words out of your mouth. and quite, because it's like you can hear the like the crescendo of the brass in a movie would hit fever pitch at that time. And the fact is, don't fucking worry about it, kid. You're gonna do good for it. And you can picture it too. And of course, I'll supply the F's for you, because I don't want anybody to say that Jeff Jaeger has a potty mouth like Captain Jack does. So I'll even do that for you as well. So that's great. That's great. And if you're joining us on Facebook, thank you for being here. But get over to YouTube. The YouTube channel is listed. It's right behind me here, listed. If you want your comments read, and I'll get to the comments of what Jeff will get to, because there's one that Homer said. But again, obviously with Vicky saying we want you back, and we'll trust me, we'll take you back anytime. But there are comments from all the people there, and I'll get to them. And one of the things that I wanted to say is that, and Raider Homer asks, and he's going to ask for some people in particular, and I'm going to start it out. Give me quick thoughts. I'm going to give you some names here, and quick thoughts of what your time was with them, or some of the memories, or some of the nice, or hopefully all nice memories that you have. First one we're going to say is Bo Jackson.
Wow. Real quiet guy. Unbelievable. You think about it, when you get the pros, everybody's all conference or all American. But I think the thing to me that really spoke volumes was when the offense would get on the field, there'd be a lot of guys on the defense that would be watching. And I saw him, of course you saw it too, but, run through, run over, run around, at that size, unbelievable.
Next one is Timmy Brown.
Great guy. For me, he was just a really genuine, nice guy. And, when you roll that into, a Hall of Fame player, and just a good guy, good to everybody. Really enjoyed playing with him.
Okay, now this one is kind of like a montage. Steve Berline, Vince Evans, Jay Schrader, Jeff Hostetler, and a host of other men of that kind of found their way in there. And I'm going to come back to Hostetler in '95 later on in the conversation. But who is your favorite quarterback? And again, I know you're going to say nice things about him, but who is your favorite quarterback? And who was the best? And because these are two different questions. Who was your favorite, and of the group that you played with, who was the best quarterback that played for the Raiders during your stint?
Jeez.
I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but
I know. Put me on the spot.
This is what real journalists do. So I am trying to make my way there. I'm gonna do.
No, it's all good.
Do my chops, good. Man.
And I agree with you. Everybody that you got to be good to play, and I don't care at what level, what length you play in the pros. If you've played, you're good. You've got some talent, no doubt about it. For me, I would say the best quarterback that we had while I was there was Hostetler. Tough, man. I can remember one time we were playing the Rams, third down. He'd waited way too dang long for somebody to come open and just got crushed. And he was literally squirming on the ground where I need to place the ball for a field goal. And I'm like, man. And he's basically just trying to crawl off the field. And I don't know if you ever met him in person, but he's a big dude. And, very tough, really good leader, good guy, same thing.
Yeah, I always have really fond memories of Jeff Hostetler, and like I said, I'm gonna come back to Jeff in the '95 season a little bit later. So don't remember, like I said, I got these things written down, so I'm not gonna forget. Hall of Famer as well, Howie Long, playing with Howie.
Yeah, played with Howie. I guess my favorite, I don't even want to call it favorite, my biggest memory of him was when I was walking down the aisle on the charter early in my first year there. And he was like, "Yeah, you look like my effing paper boy." And I'm like, "Okay, yeah, that's one of those, like, what are you going to say to Howie Long?" Like, yeah, I do, don't I? Yeah, okay. So, yeah, he got that zinger on me, and that's kind of one of those. It's not like you can have a snappy retort to that.
Now, did it stick? Because sometimes when you get in conversations like that, you get labeled. I know, like in the military, if somebody zings you, that's normally like in the Air Force and in the Navy, that's normally your call sign as a pilot. So,
Well, thank God they didn't start calling me Paperboy. So, no, it didn't stick. But yeah.
well, they called Tavecchio the pizza delivery guy. So,
Yeah, I know it could be worse.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. So,
yeah.
but at least you're making money as a paper boy. At least back then.
There you go.
I'm gonna say, I'm gonna wait for Jeff because obviously you spent a lot of time with, and I'm thinking that's probably your soulmate amongst all your crew. But I'm gonna mention another name, and this gentleman, I've never had a chance to talk with him for obvious reasons, but I've heard lots of great things about him. Steve Smith.
Yeah. Steve, after the Raiders, he came up and played a couple years in Seattle with the Seahawks. So, and TA, his wife, got to know them a little bit, and they live down in Texas now. But yeah, Steve, wow, there's not a whole lot you can say other than I applaud his courage. Yeah, tough guy.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I'd love to have his wife on for something, but I don't want to intrude upon their their private lives. But the hard nose that Steve and the debilitating and hard pressures of him dealing with ALS. For those that don't know, make sure that if you have a chance, if you want to do something good for one of the Raiders former, make sure you look up anything for Steve Smith and his ALS fight. You mentioned Don James before, but obviously a fantastic college coach with you all 4 years. I'm gonna mention the current coach of the Raiders, but we're gonna do that after I mention a name that is kind of like yelling fire in a theater for a Raiders fan. You were under the tutelage of Mike Shanahan. And Mike obviously was a different duck back then. So anything that you have to say, I mean, did he really wreck it so bad that it was very, very easy to get rid of him? Or am I missing something? Or anything that you want to again? Because I know you got to keep it within the circles. You can't say, well, he was an SOB. I get it. I'm not mentioning you to say that.
Yeah.
But anything that you could for color purposes here, something colorful that we might not know about Mike Shannon, maybe something good that we need to keep with us.
Well, so he was there all of '88 and the first 4 games of '89, and so I had 1 training camp and 4 games with him. So, I don't really know, how much, how much there is that I could glean from that, but. If I had to say anything, everybody talks about the quote unquote Raider way of doing things. And, you look at Al Davis, that's just the way he ran things, his way. And I can remember a few times during training camp, like coming off the practice field or something, and those two would be talking, seemed a little heated at times. I had no idea what they're talking about, but, you know, maybe that's one of those things he just didn't fit, you know, what Mr. Davis wanted, and you know, maybe that's the deal. I don't know, but you know, he always treated me well. I mean, on a personal level, it was, you know, I never had any issues with him at all.
Again, and I know you're not going to denigrate anybody. I like to give people the chance here because, again, all of Raider Nation, I shouldn't say all, but the majority of us, you mentioned Mike Shanahan. It's like, you know, that's not a good name to mention. It's like mentioning that your wife is a Kansas City Chiefs fan, you know, something like that. So that's why I like to talk to people and say, hey, give us something that we don't know, or give us a story that would make us like see somebody else in a positive light. So again, no worries, Sir Jeff. Again, I'm not letting you escape, but I'm also trying not to give you softball questions like they do at a Democratic debate. Let's put it that way.
There you go. I like it.
Okay. Now I'm going to try to lob some of these together. I mentioned the '95 season, so I might as well get to it now. I'm in England, and the Raiders are going well. They're 8-2, and they're playing the Cowboys, and all of a sudden, the man that we both mentioned as being probably one of the most hardcore, toughest SOBs on the Raiders, Jeff Hostetler, he goes down. So the Raiders in '95 looking like that they're just going to steamroll into the playoffs. They go from 8-2 to 8-8, and definitely not in the playoffs. I mean, trust me, I was heartbroken. I think that was also the year, and I might be mistaken, but I think that was the year that they played the Chiefs on like a Monday night, and Elvis Gerbach threw to like Ryzen with like 2 seconds to go in the game, and they lost that game too. So again, that was one of the memorable years of, you know, Raiders football for me, as I was overseas, and I actually went, if I wanted to see a game, I had to stay up for it. But I'm sure that it didn't go well in the locker room. I mean, other than Haas going down, was there anything else that you can say about that team, about, you know, giving it, you know, maybe some plaudits that we should know? Again, because that was a fantastic team, and it really should have been a definite AFC West threat for a division title in my mind.
Yeah. Well, I hurt my knee and missed. I think I missed the first 6 games of the year. That year. So, you know,
who was kicking in your stead?
Cool Ford. Come on.
Oh, okay. Oh my God, yeah. I remember Cole Ford missing a kick in Tampa, and I live in Tampa, so trust me, I heard about that. Oh my God, see that's a bad memory, Jeff. Thanks for bringing it up.
There you go. I thought I'd bring that one up.
Yeah. See, I forgot that, but you had to remind me. So again, well, I know that if we would have had you the entire year, we definitely would have been at least to the AFC Championship game. But that's beside the point. But I mean, you went down, Haas went down. I mean, a lot of injuries, but I mean, anything else there that I mean, not that I'm trying to get some tidbits here, but I mean, that was a great team, and then it just all the air got sucked out of it.
Well, I think you said it right there. You know, Haas getting hurt. I mean, quite a leader. You know, definitely a good player, and you know, I mean, sometimes it just gets going and snowballs. I mean, you know, if you've been watching the game long enough, which I know you have, you know, it's amazing. You know, once it starts getting ugly, sometimes it just feeds on itself, and there you have it.
Well, since we're going there, and this is because who are your favorite guys that you played with in Oakland? Memorable games, memorable players, your favorites, you know, some good memories. And how often do you see them amongst your alumni of the Raiders? I'm sure you get a chance to. I know you get asked to do things for the Raider alumni. How involved are you on that? So again, apologies for a big slew of questions. But you know, your favorite guys, your favorite games, and your favorite alumni.
Well, Jeff Gossett, of course. I mean, he's my best friend from football. You know, we still keep in touch. He lives down in Dallas. Dan Turk, I don't know if you remember him.
Oh yeah,
long snapper.
Yeah, and I was gonna say I was trying to find out. I said, who is the long snapper on that team? And I was trying to remember who the heck it was.
Yeah, it was Dan, and you know, I mean, obviously he died, but you know, those were my two good buddies, you know, while I played, and you know, that's one of those things where I think fans view it differently than players do, because you know, it's a job at the end of the day. You know, if you can't get it done, you're gone. And, you know, everybody's coming from different parts of the country. And, you know, so there's that part of it where when the season's over, you know, many guys that go back home. And, you know, in terms of, you know, getting together and hanging out and all that stuff, it's, you know, I think you'll find a lot more guys, you know, lead a separate life than maybe you think, you know. And again, you know, on the fan club, you know, fan side of things, you know, the Northwest Raider Booster Club, you know, I'll go and watch a game or hang out with, you know, some of those guys every year, and those people, I mean, the Raider fans are unbelievable. I mean, no joke, you know. I mean, I don't need to tell you, and you know, so I think that's one of those things where I think maybe fans want you to, or want to think that everybody, you know, hey, they go play the game and they'll hang out, and you know, I think that's the stuff from the '70s, you know, when, you know, guys are out whooping it up, you know, late night before a game. Makes for a great story, but that doesn't happen now. I mean, it's big business, and you know, guys are there to, you know, build their brand and all that stuff, you know, that, you know, now. And I think that was kind of starting to take place when I was playing.
Okay, well that's a great segue, because I'm gonna go with that. The differences from then and now, obviously, what are the differences that you see? Because there's a couple questions. Is obviously with the Raiders' impending move to Vegas. How, as a lifelong Raider fan, again, you've been a Raider fan from being up in the Pacific Northwest, so I know that you're like me. It's like if they're the Timbuktu Raiders, you're gonna support them. But there is that difference where, and I say this to everybody that I see out when I go out to Oakland, I said, I feel bad for the folks in Oakland that are the season ticket holders. And I'm a season ticket holder, and I don't live in Oakland, but I feel bad for the folks that were in Oakland and they got the team ripped out, not just once but twice. But I say, hey, it's not the Raiders, it's the damn politicians there. But what are your views about the Raiders moving to Vegas, if I might ask?
You know, I'm with you. No matter where they're at, I'll root for them. But let's face it, they belong in Oakland. I mean, heck, even when we were in LA, you know, I remember. So I played 89 to 95 with the Raiders, and I remember we played a preseason game up in Oakland. Like, I don't know, maybe it was 90 or 91, or maybe I don't know, 89, 90, 91, something like that.
Yeah, I remember it was 89 because it was August against the Oilers. And the only reason why I remember it was because I was temporarily assigned out there from my place in the Philippines, and I couldn't see the game. And I was so pissed because I'm a Raiders fan that station, right, the one chance I'm stationed in the Philippines, and to see the game, a Raiders game against the Oilers, August '89, and I leave the end of July. I was mad. I'm like, can't you extend me for like 3 weeks? That's all I asked. No, Jay, you got to go back. So again, I apologize. I know you were there. You tell me about it, Jeff.
Well, anyway, I mean, for me, just the energy of the crowd. You know, and I get it, you know, where that was not a normal preseason game, of course, because it's back in Oakland, and just being in Oakland for me was really cool in the sense that, you know, like I said, I was an Oakland Raider fan when I was a kid, and just the energy. And so in my mind, I always think of the Raiders as the Oakland Raiders. I mean, even when I was playing for them in LA, it just sometimes Oakland would come to mind. So, and I was really thankful that, my last year that I played, got to play in Oakland. And, I was bummed out in the sense that, we lived in practice in LA and flew up for games, so I didn't really get that taste of Oakland. I've been back to a couple of games, and I mean, Goss and I went back to a game a couple of years ago and got dropped off like literally right in the middle of all the tailgates and made it about 10 feet and somebody recognized me. I was like, are you kidding me?
Oh,
I mean, that didn't happen in LA. I mean, there's so many other things going on, and I mean, let's face it, on the list of Raider players that you would recognize and think of, I wouldn't put myself too high on that list. So it just kind of brought it home to me that fans in Oakland, they're legit, and it bums me out for them. I feel bad.
Well, we're sure, and people were asking Don Webb, who's one of my shipmates, Air Force type, is Jeff going to be an ambassador in Vegas? And I'm sure that the answer is when you can be.
Hey, call me up there, Mr. Davis. Come on.
Yeah.
That's one of those things where I look at it like, I'll guarantee I'd love to go to a game out there, and to me, I'll be really interested to see what kind of home field advantage they get, because how expensive it is. And I mean, I view it, it's going to be like Tampa Bay, like when I played for the Bears, so we're in this, in the division with the Vikings and Packers and Tampa Bay. And heck, if you're in Tampa Bay, or I mean, if you're in Green Bay or Minnesota playing in December, heck yeah, you're going there. And I can remember, thinking like, geez, same with Chicago, playing a December game in Tampa, and it felt like a home game almost.
Oh yeah.
And I think that I fear that's going to happen with the Raiders. And then, again, you're losing this great home field advantage you have in Oakland. And I don't know. I mean, I'll be interested to see how it shakes out. That's for sure.
Well, Jeff, any time that I don't have a plus one with me, if you want to go and sit in the seats with me, trust me, man, that the seat's yours. Okay.
Sounds good. I'd love to check it out.
I'll hang out with you. And if I need to sell tickets, maybe I'll sell both the you and Goose if I got to do that too.
There you go.
Now you mentioned it. I'm gonna ask one question, and we're gonna go to the Monsters of the Midway itself. What was your most memorable kick? And it's for with throughout your career. And again, that could include your time with Dubbers, and then we'll talk about Dubbers as well.
Well, if you're asking that question, I think you probably already know the answer. my favorite kick that I ever made was my first home game with Bears against the Raiders to beat the Raiders. That was pretty tasty.
just a little bit of a yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, if we're going to go there, was there a reason why that they said, hey, Jeff, we love you, but, you might want to look at some plans for next year that don't include the Northern California?
Okay, so this is my opportunity to get on the soapbox and talk about something that's 25 years old.
Good. Yeah, and again, go for it, man. That's what I opened it up for you. Go ahead, please.
Okay, so here's my deal. First and foremost, I love that. Once a Raider, always a Raider, and I get that from fans all the time. I totally believe that. And long story short, remember I said I hurt my knee in preseason of '95 and missed the first 6 games.
Uh-huh.
And they brought Cole in, and he kicked like a dream. And so they said, The following year, going to training camp, we're going to chart every day, and whoever gets it, gets it. I'm like, excellent, let's do that. And I think he beat me charting one day during training camp. But he did kick well in games. And let's face it, I mean, I don't know if you remember, but it was like, 6'2", 220. I mean, dude could pound it on kickoff. I mean, he's very strong, no doubt about it. And the only bummer for me on it, I mean, I knew I was going to get cut. I mean, everybody knew it. The only bummer for me was that they didn't cut me in the first cut down, because at the time, Kansas City was looking for a kicker and Chicago was looking for a kicker. And Bears ended up cutting Kevin Butler for Carlos Huerta, who played 2 games for the Bears, never to be heard from again.
Yeah.
And that's who I replaced in Chicago. The Chiefs traded for Stoyanovich. And at the time, I think Gunter Cunningham was there. I mean, there were 3 or 4.
Oh, it was like Oakland Midwest, because they had quite a few Raider folks there. Yeah.
Oh, trust me, that's exactly where I was going. If he would have cut me, on the first cut.
Yeah.
Okay, which, that's one of those where at the time you're like, okay, I've had a good run for you, and it's the right thing to do. You're not going to keep me. Everybody knows it. And they didn't cut me until the last cut down. But by then, the musical chairs had stopped, and I didn't have a place to go, so I had to, wait for somebody to take a dive, which, I mean, that's how it ended up in Chicago. But again,
now do you
looking back on it, go ahead.
I was going to say, do you think, and the way that it sounds like, that's the reason why they didn't do you a solid, man, because they didn't want you to go over to Kansas City, because they knew
for sure.
They knew that facing you twice a year is not good juju.
Oh, for sure. I'll guarantee it. And you're talking about maybe getting John Kingdon on the show.
Yeah, hopefully next Wednesday we'll have John on the show. And I told people
that's one of those. He's got all kinds of good stories and stuff. And honestly, again, it's 25 years ago, and it's one of those, you're never going to play forever. And everybody's got their story of like, oh golly. For me, I choose to look at it. I had 7 great years with the Raiders. I had to go play, 3+ more years in Chicago. Lucky guy. So, that's how I want people to understand where I'm coming from on it. I'm giving you kind of, the story on it.
Oh, and we love you for it. We love you for it, man. That's why I ask these things, because I love to hear from the folks that know, and as folks that get a chance to join in with the conversation, say, hey man, you got to watch this interview, man. Really interesting stuff that that you don't really get a chance to know. That's why I enjoy being here and asking the questions. So so you're in Chicago, you beat the Raiders. Any other highlights that you can give us, for playing in the Windy City, or any of the teams out there, because it's a whole different ball of wax, like you said, playing in the Midwest in non-domed stadiums. Well, at the time, Minnesota still had the Hubert H. Humphrey Dome, but Green Bay's not domed, Chicago's not domed, and Detroit Detroit had. So I think Detroit had the Silver Dome. So you were freezing balls in Green Bay and Chicago for most of those games. So I'm sure that kicking a concrete something that's about as heavy as concrete is not the best thing for anybody to do for a living.
No, it was it was a little tough, but again, just kind of reflecting on it, when I got there, Kevin Butler, he hadn't signed. He ended up signing with the Arizona Cardinals, I think, like a week after I signed with the Bears. But he came and took me out to dinner, and we talked a little bit, and I loved it. I mean, I thought it was such a class move, just to talk about kicking in the cold and all that crap. and I think it goes back to college for me. Kicking at UW, yeah, you're not going to get a lot of snow, but you're going to get a ton of wind and rain, and learn how to deal with that. And
I'm sorry, does it rain in Washington?
Just a little, just a tick.
Okay, yeah. I'm a Florida guy, so I never been up there, and obviously, bump, tongue firmly planted in cheek. But but kicking when it's windy and wet and maybe a bit cold later in the year does not take the place of kicking in temperatures in the teens or in the below 10s with snow and ice and wind chill. That's not fun, I'm sure.
No, it wasn't a whole lot of fun, just dealing with that. And, one thing I'll say that I was proud of, my first 3 years there, I was over 80% every year, and nobody had ever done that before. And then, of course, Robbie Gold comes in. I mean, holy smokes, again, guys my era versus guys now, so, definitely look at it in that regard. But I was proud of how I played, there. I did well and proved to the Raiders I still had a little gas left in the tank.
Well, I'm gonna give you some good pump right here of the good smoke up the old Tookus. I'm looking at your, even in Wikipedia on your stats. First off, over 1,000 points, 1,008. And while you were with the Bears, I see 3 out of the 4 years you were 100%. I'm not sure if that's extra points, or I'm sure that's high up in the field goal. So I'm thinking that's probably just for extra points. But I mean, a mark of 98.2 overall for your career, high percentage in your kicks anyway. And I believe, and I don't have the exact Raider stats on this, but obviously Jano being the leader in points, I believe it's between you and Mr. Blanda for points on the Raider, but I think you actually had more than him because George had most of his points with the Bears and the Oilers, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, I'll tell you. I mean, I'm farther down the Raider list than you think. 'Cause I know Chris Barr had more points than me. I'm pretty sure George did too, and of course, he's out on his own. But I wouldn't think I'm probably, I don't know, 6th or 7th maybe on the list.
Well, when I think of kickers though on the Raiders, obviously you're gonna say Jano because that's obvious.
Oh, for sure.
And then you're gonna think George Blanda because people don't remember that George Blanda actually had the most points in the NFL ever before Walter Payton broke that record. And, because he was here. I mean, George Blanda was so old that he played for Bear Bryant when he was at Kentucky. And people don't even realize that Bear Bryant was the coach at Kentucky. You said, oh yeah, I know. He went to A&M before he went to Bama. I said, yeah, but where did he coach before A&M? And they look at you like, he coached before A&M? And I'm like, get out of here. Give me somebody with some chops. But, George, obviously, and then again, obviously, you and Chris Barr, to me, are in that field of guys that kick for the Raiders that were always on top of things and just did so well. And that's why I again, not pumping smoke for something that is true, but I tell you what, it's a great thing to have you here with us because, again, I hold you in that high esteem, sir.
Well, thanks. I really appreciate you taking the time. It was fun.
Well, we're getting. I don't want to keep you on too long, but trust me, I'd keep you on for as long as I can. But there are some questions that other people have as well.
Okay.
Homer asked, "Do you have any Alzado stories?" I'm not sure if you were on, if he was there at the end.
Yeah.
Okay, let me rephrase that. Do you have any Alzado stories that you're allowed to talk about? because John Kingdon has told me Alzado stories that I'm not allowed to talk about that are fantastic. So I'm giving you an out. Anyone that you're allowed to talk about.
Well, I'll just say, so my first year with the Raiders was '89, and that's when he was attempting his comeback.
Uh-huh.
And just looking at him physically, you knew he was doing something, because rather than just eating your 3 good meals a day and all that, and we'll leave it at that. And as after he, got cancer and whatnot, he said what he did, steroid wise, and it was very obvious. He was enormous. And I remember we were playing a preseason game in Chicago, and he got an interception. I remember him just going, he was very excited that he got that. And, I think for him, it seemed as though to me that he just wanted to prove that he could still play. And, we ended up not keeping him, but, he gave it a hell of an effort. I'll definitely say that.
Well, that's cool. Like I said, and again, we lost too many Raiders too young. Like you mentioned Dan Turk earlier, Dave Dalby, Lyle, and Twos, and just a lot of other people. And so there's a whole lineage of people that we lost too early, including obviously Kenny Stabler. And then this is my segue here. I'm sure that you're well aware that both Cliff Branch and Tom Flores, who obviously you have you were close to being, I'm sure that throughout your career and with being an alumni, the fact that they were both snubbed by the Hall of Fame. One of Vicky says, do you honestly believe that it's the NFL and everybody else against the Raiders, and that they just really just have it out for us, and will it ever end?
The fact that Cliff Branch and Tom Flores aren't in the Hall of Fame is a joke. So I'm starting off my comments with that.
Okay.
Makes zero sense to me. Okay, everybody's got their conspiracy theories about, they don't like Al Davis and whatever. I'll guarantee you that there's people in the NFL that didn't like him or how he acted and what he did. But I'll also tell you, I think there's even more people that admire, what he did and how he took on, plenty of fights and, that other people didn't want to. So, but my take is that I think there's some faction, that wants to, keep, some Raiders, from getting the recognition that they deserve. I look at, and like one that I think will be interesting to me is Jim Plunkett versus Eli Manning. You think Eli Manning's not going to get in the Hall of Fame? He's going to get in.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, so he won 2 Super Bowls. Well, how about Plunkett? What did he do?
Yeah.
So that kind of stuff, as a Raider, bums me out. Because especially as you get older, heck, for these guys to get in the Hall of Fame, absolutely, that's a big deal. It really is.
Yeah, the fact that, like you said, with Eli, because it's those things where he has 2 Super Bowls, so he's going to get in. But Jim Plunkett has 2 Super Bowls. Tom Flores has 2 Super Bowls, and yet they put in Bill Cowher, who only has 1 Super Bowl. And I think he has 2 Super Bowl losses. I know he has at least 1 Super Bowl loss. He only has 1 ring.
Just 1.
Yeah, but Tom Flores has 2 rings. Okay, and he was a player
as a coach.
Right, as a coach. Yeah. Plus, he has a ring with the Kansas City Chiefs as a player, and he has a ring as an assistant coach. So
Exactly.
he's got 4 Super Bowl rings to Cowher's 1. And only 1 Super Bowl. That's one of the reasons why I like the comments is the people, if I screw up, and occasionally I screw up, but Mike Sarah will call me on it. Yeah, 1 Super Bowl loss for Cowher.
Well, how about though? Okay, so Jimmy Johnson, he's got 2, and how many years did he coach the Cowboys? 5?
Oh, at least 5, yeah.
Not many more, 5 or 6.
Yeah, because he can only take so much of Jura, and I said that correctly. Jura.
Touche.
Yeah.
But, okay, so he won 2 in, whatever, 5, 6 years. Okay. How in the world does he get in? And I'm not saying that he doesn't deserve it, but how did he get in before he's not getting it?
Right. And again, I'll say that Jimmy Johnson deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. I mean, that goes without saying. But if you're going to make a case for me that Bill Cowher deserves to be in the Hall of Fame before Tom Flores, you're not holding any water. And I don't care who you are. I'll debate you all day on that. So again,
I definitely agree with you on that between Jimmy Johnson and Cowher for sure. Johnson, count it. But like being up here in Seattle, Mike Holmgren, okay, so he had 1 win, 2 losses in Super Bowls, okay, and I think Cowher only went to 2, 1 lost 1. I think I could be wrong, but Holmgren, what the heck? Look at how many Super Bowls did he win as an assistant coach, and on and on and on, all that stuff. It's amazing to me that the popularity that, it's like Pro Bowl and stuff like that, at some point in time, it's like, yeah, okay.
Well, I got a couple more for you, Jeff. Trust me, I don't want to let you go, but I do got to ask these.
Okay.
Looking at the Raiders analytically, and this is present day, okay? First off, what do you think? What do you think of Gruden 2.0? And what do you think about their ascension? Because I tell people this, and I said before the season started, I said the Raiders are a 7-9 team, 8-8 if things go well. Now, I had to amend that because the Raiders of this past year are really a 9-7 team because they got screwed out of 2 wins against the Jaguars and against the Broncos the very last game. So they're a 9-7 team. Unfortunately, in the record books, they're 7-9. The only positive thing about that is that their draft pick, by losing to the Donkeys, got a little bit higher.
I was just going to say, hey, you know what? 7-9, 9-7. Give me 79. It helps the draft pick a little bit.
So saying that, and by the way, if Carlson doesn't come back, we're going to have you kick. So we fixed the kicking problems. We got the Jeff Jaeger back as kicker. And you can bring Goose up too, and I'll long snap for you, and then we'll have the trifecta of really old guys that shouldn't be in uniform. Okay.
Nobody wants to see that. Trust me.
But fixing the Raiders analytically, obviously, what do you see? And as an analyst, not as a fan, but as somebody that is football smart, obviously, what needs to be done to make this team a bit better, and when do you foresee the Raiders being a playoff team? I say that they're close in 2020. They possibly can do it in 2020, but if they continue to ascend, no later than 2021.
You know what? I love their draft class this year. Mayock. That's what I'm talking about. Nice work. If they can hit on some more, 4th round picks to get 10.5 sacks or whatever.
Oh yeah,
that was pretty impressive.
Oh yeah, Mad Max is a fine, and people are bad mouthing Klee. And Klee is a stalwart. He does the job. He's getting better at his position, and I share he's gonna be a dynamo next year because people are discounting him. And I know that chip on his shoulder is going to get big. But I think that we got some really good finds in both Farrell and Crosby. Mullen back there as the one corner. We need somebody on the other side of him, and hopefully we'll get that. But, we got a safety in Abram, who the jury's actually still out because he played one game, folks, and I like what I saw, but you can't tell me that Abram's going to be fantastic only playing one game in the NFL. Yeah. I give you Mike Mitchell as an example. I give you God, who's the other hard-hitting safety? So this guy's going to be a dynamo. Hey, he could be a hard hitter all he wants, but I like Mike Mitchell as a hard-hitting safety, but he's not a fantastic safety. So hopefully Abram will show what he really can do. And like I said, we were close. There was a certain person that wore the number 84 that actually never wore it for a down this past year. I won't even say his name. I despise the gentleman that much. But
when you get me going on that knucklehead.
Oh no, please do go going. That's why I said the Raiders are, a number one receiver. They need that. They need another running back. I love what we have with Jacobs, but you need to make sure that you don't wear him out, because Gruden in Tampa wore out Cadillac Williams, and I don't want that to happen with the Raiders running game. They need somebody that Jacobs could be spelled by. And, another good running back, a real wide receiver, another wide receiver that's not playing hurt the entire year. So the jury's kind of still out on Tyrell Williams. We're set at tight end with Waller and Carrier and Moreau. I think, in my mind, and again, not being a rose-colored glasses guy, but I don't think that there is a better trifecta of tight ends in the NFL than what we have on this team, pending Moreau coming back from his injury. So again, go ahead, man. Let that Jeff Jaeger stuff fly. It's a long kick. The Raiders are in the playoffs in 2020, or are they still quite looking in maybe 2021?
You know what? I'm really bullish on either of those years, and of course it's easier to say 2021, but I love what they've done this past year, and you know what? It's going to take some time, and I get it. Everybody's like, hey, of course you want to win every year, but who does that,
Other than the Cheatriots playing, and getting every call in the book, but I digress.
Oh, trust me, don't get me going on New England. They're playing in the absolute worst division forever. So you start out the year 5-1 minimum. It's like, oh, stop it.
Yeah, you're going, and they're going to lose to the Dolphins at least once. We were just surprised that they actually lost to them in New England. Because again, I say that to New England. I says, you guys got 5 wins in division guaranteed. You're going to lose to the Dolphins once because they always beat you, and that's a guarantee. So if you go from 5 wins, you're halfway to a playoff spot right there. All you need is another 4, and then with the other there to get 9 and 7, you're in the playoffs, and you know that they're going to get every other call. So that's why they're always double-digit wins, and they look at me like I'm a hater. I'm not a hater. I'm an analyst. This is what I do for a living.
Oh, and I totally agree with you. You start out the year with with a layup of a division like that. What a leg up on everybody. It's crazy what an advantage that is. So yeah, I'm with you there. I'm really excited, the direction the team's going. I'm hopeful, hit on a few more guys in the draft, get that wide receiver in free agency or wherever. Definitely need that. Old number 84, there's no disputing his talent, but for me, he lost me when he showed up at training camp in a hot air balloon.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? That kind of crap? No. All that does is just screw up everything. I could sit there, and think back to the day when I was playing. If I was, if I played with a guy like that on my team, I'd be shaking my head. So yeah, it's I'm glad they got rid of him.
Well, I'm glad too.
Not.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no denying the talent, but it's the space between the ears and the detriment that does to a team. There was a reason why the Steelers were ecstatic to get 2 picks for him. They were ecstatic.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, back to your question, I guess. If I had to put money on it, I would say give it one more year. But I think coming up here shortly, they're gonna be rolling. And of course, it doesn't help that they play in a tough division. And okay, say what you want about San Diego and Denver, but I'm talking historically.
Right, and unfortunately, Mahomes is going to be there for a bit, or maybe we can kneecap him like we did with the one year that Brady was. Oh, not that I said that out loud, because I would never say anything like that out loud.
Yeah, I got you.
Okay, and we went over this about the roster, Gruden 2.0. Now we're coming to the part. Tell me about Jeff Jaeger post-career and any things that you want to talk about. What have you been doing since you retired? What are your things that you are really keen on? What can we do to help your causes out? Yeah, this is your time to just plug yourself away, or tell us what we've been missing since you walked away from kicking that little oblong leather ball.
Wow, what you've been missing. Wow. Well, I've been married to a wonderful lady for 28 years. My bride Angela and I, we have 2 daughters, Brooke and Lexi, who are 25 and 26. So I started looking at that stuff, and it's like, man, I'm getting a little older.
Yeah, and they're still single?
Well, Brooke, our oldest, she's been married for 3 years now. So, yeah, our son-in-law James is wonderful, great guy. So, family life is good. No complaints on that. Work-wise, I work for Sotheby's International Realty, and I've been selling residential real estate for coming up on 20 years now. So anybody that's moving into Seattle or knows anybody that's moving here, give me a call. That'd be fun. Talk a little Raider football and go out and find a house. So it'd be good stuff.
All right.
Yeah, so that'd be good. I've been mentoring / coaching, kickers, heck, ever since I retired, and that's kind of one of my passions. It's I never had a coach, a kicking coach, through high school and coaching in high school and whatnot, and the kids that I work with, it's been a lot of fun to pass on, my knowledge to them, where. It's kind of one of those things. I know I'll never kick again, but I can watch a kid hit 3 balls and give him something that'll make him better, and that's very gratifying to me. I really enjoy being able to do that, and so other than that, get out and golf when I can, and nothing crazy, nothing too exciting.
Well, if you ever want to laugh. Invite me to play golf with you, because I play like once every 3 years, and I think I'm behind that quota by about 5. So I like the game. It's just I've always been too busy with my job and the things of doing as Captain Jack and doing this, and I really love it. I'd like to go play, but nobody I know plays. So like I said, if you want to have a golf game where you can laugh hysterically, well, occasionally I'm gonna hit one really long, kind of like John Daly, but obviously my short game sucks. So, we'll go from there.
Not good. I get you.
Well, Jeff, any final parting shots? Because again, I've had you on for about an hour and a half, minus the fact that that I couldn't hear you because I screwed up. So the floor is yours.
Yeah, I was going to say no real parting shot. Actually, just a parting. Thanks so much for having me on, and it's fun to get to relive a little bit of a really special time in my life, and get to talk some Raider football. Raider fans. Heck, I mean, I still get people sending me stuff. Hey, will you sign? And trust me, like I said, my opinion, I wouldn't be the first person that comes to mind as a ex-Raider, and it always makes me feel good, and I know just how great the Raider fans are, and I just want to say that it's a pretty special thing that all those years ago I got to play that and live that little kid's dream kind of thing, and I really enjoyed it, and the fans, when I run into them, and now it makes you feel good, so it's pretty cool. I just want to say thanks.
Well, no, we want to thank you, and hopefully when this gets posted, I'm going to make sure that it gets posted to as many Raider groups as possible. And I thank you for pushing it to your friends as well. And I mean this, and obviously it's kind of like a plug for the show. If there are any former players that you hang out, like I said, Goose would be a fantastic person to have on, because obviously you think a Ray guy. But I want to say that if you're of the older generation, if you say, well, who was their best punter not named Ray Guy, the first words out of the mouth would be Jeff Gossett. Because, again, we're a little bit older, and we got a chance to appreciate him.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, he'd be a good one to chat with. So, reach out once we get done with this, and I'll get you guys in touch.
Thank you. And again, anybody else trust me, I'll sit down, and we're going to be doing these in the off season, because I want to make sure that there's still Raider programming in the off season, and it's with stuff that we want to hear about. It's with players and events and people that are well worth it. And again, hopefully John Kingdon will join me next week. And again, I'll let him know that you said, hey, ask John Kingdon about that, and I'm sure that he'll do a chuckle.
Get JK going. And I know you've already spoken with him, but he'll be a fun guy to have on there. He's got a ton of knowledge, and he's one of those. I'm sure he's got a lot more stories that I can't really talk about, but he's got a lot of good stuff too.
Oh yeah,
you'll enjoy it.
I like I said, I've been with John a couple of different times. I've interviewed him a couple times, and I wanted to have him I haven't had him on YouTube yet. I've had him on Facebook, but him and I have gone out for breakfast a couple different times, and listening to his stories again. And he knows that I ain't going to say anything because, this is something that I couldn't put in the book. And then, of course, my ears pick right up. It's like, oh, yeah, I'm going to get some good stuff. And there's a lot of great stories, folks, and I ain't saying a word because I heard it from John Kingdon, and I, as a analyst that knows how to keep secrets, will keep all that wonderful knowledge inside. But trust me, if you ever get a chance to listen to John Kingdon where it's just you and him and he likes you, you will be amazed at all of the good different stories that he can tell you. And I'm sure the same thing with Jeff. If you get him on where he's not on the record or not on for public display, I'm sure he can get into a lot of other good things that you would be. And that's the way the Raiders of like I said, of the older Raiders, and again, not that I'm saying that we're old, because no, you're 55 and I'm pushing it in about 2 months, but we're not old. We're just refined like fine wine. But if you get that generation, you're going to enjoy the times with them a hell of a lot better.
Well seasoned. All right. Well, sounds good. Well, thanks for having me on.
Jeff, thanks again. I'm going to stay on a little bit, so I'm going to close down the broadcast, and I'll say a couple parting words when we're off the air. I hope you enjoyed tonight's show. Again, this is the Black Shield and Galleon Wheel Webcast. I'm going to be here during the off season with various players and other folks of really good knowledge and things to hear about. I've had on before, like I said, Otis Sistrunk, Jim Tunney, John Kingdon. I'm going to try to get Mike Davis back on. Great guy. So we're gonna be here. Make sure that you are watching these. And again, Jeff, I'm gonna pop it off. But thank you again, sir. Don't go away, and be here throughout the season in the off season while we do some more broadcasts. I'm gonna stop streaming again, Jeff. Thank you for your time here, sir. It's been wonderful. Thank you, and hope like I said, we'll talk. I hope to see you again too.
All right, sounds good.
All right, y'all take care, folks. We'll see you next time on the Black Shield and Galleon Wheel Webcast.